The next Fable I'm going to look at is Sleeping Beauty, and she has some unique features. First off, she has the most hit points of any Fable in the game, as well as she has a double-sided card, with one side having her asleep side, and the other side having her awake side. Sleeping Beauty can also choose to inflict damage on herself to do additional damage, and she'll also gain awakened tokens for inflicting damage to herself. When she reaches 6 awakened tokens, she will flip her card over, and then she will be able to spend those awakened tokens to add even more damage or other effects depending upon the cards that she plays. And Sleeping Beauty can dish out huge amounts of damage, some of the highest damage in the game, using some of her later cards that'll have multipliers on them. She can do up to 9 damage with the base amount, and then she can also inflict damage on herself to do additional damage, plus some of her twist cards and other effects will compound that, adding even more damage to some of those attacks, dishing out crazy amounts of damage to her opponents. One of the keys when playing against Sleeping Beauty is she doesn't have a lot of mobility or defensive capabilities, as even her defensive deck is mostly offensive. So getting in there and dealing out a lot of damage to Sleeping Beauty before she can start gearing up and adding those awakened tokens and being able to really take advantage of some of her cards in her deck will be key to defeating her. As for playing as Sleeping Beauty, your keys are going to be dishing out lots of damage very quickly. You want to stay on the offensive, you want to build up your skill cards so that you can start using some of the more powerful cards, unlocking some of your twists, and really going after your opponent and finding that balance, as it's very tempting for you to start off by taking in a lot of damage and getting all those benefits, but it's really about using it at key moments, being able to use that when it's the most advantageous to deal out a lot of damage, maybe when your opponent has low defense, or you're able to really generate some massive attacks with those abilities. So using them somewhat sparingly, but there are even some of the later twist cards in her deck will allow her to heal. So she's one of the few characters that can actually heal as well. So really taking advantage of the higher amount of hit points is going to be key to taking that damage and dishing it back out to other players. Now, as far as Sleeping Beauty's backstory, it's very interesting. On her 16th birthday, she fell into a coma, or what her family believed was a coma initially, but she had moments where she was awake and interacting and body movements and everything else, and as she woke up more, she started interacting with these dark shadows, and so her family didn't know how to handle and care for her. Eventually, people showed up from this institute that wanted to take her and said that they would care for her and treat her. And unfortunately, they were lying about that. They wanted to study and test her, doing all kinds of different experiments on her, trying to figure out what kind of special powers she had and all that. So unfortunately, one of those experiments went terribly wrong for them. And Sleeping Beauty woke up at that point, which interacted and opened that dimension to this other world with these shadowy spirits that attacked everybody in the institute, killing them and leaving nothing but death and destruction in their wake. From there, Sleeping Beauty left the facility and is roaming the lands now, going between these wakeful and sleeping states, bringing with them shadows and destruction. So from here, let's go into her deck and take a look at the different decks that she has and how they will work and how you can use them. Sleeping Beauty is a unique character, as she has the most hit points of any character in the game at 42, and she's also going to start the game asleep with her asleep side face up. This is going to have a couple of important rules with it. So anytime that Sleeping Beauty takes damage by taking damage from her attack cards, which she will voluntarily do, which means that she can spend her health to boost some of her attacks. When she does so, she is going to gain awakened tokens. And when she reaches 6 awakened tokens, she is going to flip over to her awakened side. Now, one important note, when she is asleep, she is not allowed to spend awakened tokens on abilities. So she must wait in order to awaken. So when she does, then she is going to flip over to her awakened side. Now, at this point, you cannot gain awakened tokens in the awakened state. Whenever you use a skill that has the awakened token symbol on it, you can spend up to 3 of those awakened tokens to boost that skill in certain ways. Now, you cannot gain defense via a defense action. You can still gain power from it though, so you won't be able to, you're going to be very weak defensively during your awakened state. And then after you spend all of your tokens, you're going to flip back over to your sleep side. Sleeping Beauty's attack deck is all about doing short-range damage to her opponents and potentially inflicting damage to herself to boost these attacks and gain those awakened tokens. So she's going to start with an Inner Turmoil, which is going to give her a range 1 attack that's going to deal damage based on the basic action card, the attack card that she spends to activate this. She can also choose to inflict a number of damage to herself to allow her to gain damage plus X, which is going to add that additional damage. And this can be no more than 1. So she can only take 1 damage to herself to trigger that effect, but then she's going to deal an additional damage as well as gaining those awakened tokens. Inner Rage is going to amplify this, being able to do 2 damage plus the level of the basic card she plays to activate this. And then again, she can take a number of damage, up to 2 this time, to inflict additional damage. Moving over to her Bloodletting card, this one is going to limit her to using it only once per turn, and when you need to play a basic card for an attack action or for an action or skill, you may instead choose to lose 2, 4, or 6 HP. If you do so, it's treated as if you played a level 1, 2, or 3 basic card. You cannot gain power from this. So this is going to be very handy if you have a really powerful card or critical card you really need to get off, but you don't have the basic card to activate it. You can choose to take damage instead to be able to count as if you had that card in your hand to activate another card, which is very powerful. Then you have the Inner Fury, which is the highest level card of her attack deck. This is going to deal 3 damage plus the skill card or the basic card you played. And again, you can take up to 3 damage this time to inflict additional damage. Then she's going to unlock her second twist, which is actually going to heal her. She's one of the few characters in the game that can actually heal some of her wounds. So as you get into these, each one of the bottom twist cards is going to heal your character. Sleeping Beauty's defensive deck is all about doing additional damage during her attack actions. She's going to start with the Shattering Chains card, which is going to allow her until the end of her turn to add +1 damage to a certain number of her next attack actions. That number is going to be based on the defensive basic card she spends to activate this card, as well as if she is in her awakened state, and only in her awakened state, she can choose to spend additional awakened tokens to add to that value. From there, then that is going to be the number of next attack actions until the end of her turn that she's going to get to add that +1 damage. From there, she's going to move into her level 2, which is Shattering Bones. And this one is simply going to do additional damage, but is going to work exactly the same way as the level 1 card. From there, she's going to unlock her first twist, which is Blood Right. With this one, it is limited once per turn, and when you inflict at least 2, 4, or 6 damage on your opponent, you may choose to add a no higher than level 1, 2, or 3, again based on the damage you do, attack card from your discard pile back into your hands. So once Sleeping Beauty starts doing damage, she loves it. She wants to do more damage. This is going to allow her to do that. Then she's going to move into Shattering Souls, which is going to do the highest level of additional damage at 3, and otherwise works the same way as the other 2 cards. She'll finish up with her final twist, which again is going to heal her 5 hit points, and then this card will be removed from the game. Sleeping Beauty's movement deck is very interesting and a lot of fun to play with. With her defensive deck, this is all about being able to attack at far ranges and then bringing your opponent in, and then potentially even adding defense to yourself as you do this. So she's going to start with the Groping Dark. This one is going to give her a range 2 attack that is going to do damage based on the basic movement card she plays to activate it. Again, if she's awakened, she can choose to spend awakened tokens to do additional damage. And then she's going to draw her opponent a number of spaces, again based on that basic movement card she played, towards her. She cannot move her opponents through her though. The level 2 card, the Grasping Dark, is going to do similar stuff. It is going to have a range of 3, so even farther out, again doing that damage and then potentially being able to spend those awakened tokens. Once you've unlocked that, then you'll have your first twist, which is Mental Barriers. This one is a ton of fun, especially if you need more defense. When you use a skill movement card, you may also gain a number of defense based on the level of that skill's movement. So if we end up playing one of these cards, once we have this unlocked, we're going to gain +2 defense on top of being able to trigger the effects of that card. From there, we're going to move on to the Wrenching Darkness, and this one again is going to have even farther range, at 4 range, being able to do damage and being able to draw your opponent towards you. Finally, the final twist again is going to be the Healing Twist, which is going to heal you 5 hit points, and then that card is going to be destroyed. And finally, Sleeping Beauty has 3 epic cards that she'll get to choose from. The first one we're going to look at is the Sleeper Wakes. With this one, you are going to immediately gain 3 waking tokens. You are going to ignore the 6 limits, so if you're already at your limit, you will gain 3 additional tokens, all the way up to 9 with this, and no matter which mode you are in. So even if you are in the Wake mode where normally you cannot gain awakened tokens, this will bypass that. At that point, if you are still asleep after you've gained these tokens, you may choose to immediately awaken. So even if you have less than 6 tokens, you can awaken to start using those. So very powerful card. From there, the Blood Renews. With this one, you can immediately spend your waking tokens to heal a number of hit points based on the number of tokens you spend. So this one will give you even more hit points back. From there, the final one is And They Wake Up. With this one, this is an ongoing effect, and until the beginning of your next turn, whenever your HP is reduced by taking damage, again, you voluntarily taking damage, you will get to draw the same number of cards of that amount of HP that was reduced. And no more than 6 cards can be gained. So this one will add tons of cards into your hand if you're taking damage this turn by voluntarily taking wounds to amplify your cards. This one will be excellent so that it gives you additional cards to spend to really maximize all of the damage that you're probably going to do. Well, I hope that you found this video helpful and gave you a little bit of insight into this particular fable. I will have videos covering each one of the fables, as well as some other videos covering Twisted Fables. So check those out as well, and always let me know in the comments down below what you think of these, if you found them helpful, and if you have any other questions or comments, post those in the comment section down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do appreciate it and take into account everything you say to make the best possible videos. Until next time, I'll see you later.